Hello, this is Paul Kagabine at the Garland County Library, and tonight I welcome back Mary Zunick, who is the Hot Springs Sister City Program Director and also Honorary Consul of Japan for Arkansas. This is the third installment of at least 6 in her ongoing series of virtual events about all things Japan and our relationship here in Hot Springs with our sister city, Hanamaki. So this series is going to take place on the last Wednesday of every month. Just so happens tonight is the last day of March, but it'll usually be the last Wednesday of each month. So tonight's program is going to focus on the elements of that relationship between Hot Springs and Hanamaki, and some of the elements that can be found here in Hot Springs, including gifts and artwork from and about Hanamaki. A couple of special guests here tonight that Mary will be introducing shortly. And as always, if you have questions or comments about anything you see tonight, you can share them here and I'll read them off to Mary. So welcome, Mary.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be on and to bring some of our special guests on who the Sister City program, it's not just about me or the students who go or the visitors who come here from Hanamaki. There's a whole team of volunteers who make all of this happen and have since the very beginning of the program. And so we're going to hear from a couple of those people tonight. And really the focus of this evening, like Paul mentioned, it's how people here in Hot Springs can be involved in the Sister City program. And right now, of course, no one's traveling to Japan or coming to visit us from our sister city. So we have virtual opportunities, but we also have some artwork and some artifacts from Hanamaki that I encourage the community to seek out, whether it's downtown or at Garvin Gardens or National Park College. We're going to be talking a little bit about all of those. Now, I've been the director of the program for, I think, 13 years now, but our Sister City program, in 2023, we will be 30 years old. So there was a lot of life and activity in the Sister City program long before me. And so 2 people who helped set up a firm foundation for our Sister City relationship are joining me this evening. We have Donna Casparian and Dennis Smith. They have both been a part of the Sister City Foundation. The foundation is the nonprofit part of our Sister City program. I work for Visit Hot Springs, and the city is obviously involved since it's a Sister City relationship, but we also have a nonprofit portion made up of a board of directors that helps allow fundraising for the Student Scholarship Fund, which supports educational exchange. They also support the hospitality and support the Sister City program in a very broad way. So Paul, if you could bring on Dennis and Donna, I am going to let them start out by telling you a little bit about them and how they became involved in the Sister City program and kind of what their specialty is within the program, kind of what they've always focused on. And now, who was involved first in the Sister City program? Which is the chicken or the egg? Was it Dennis or was it Donna?
Dennis.
Dennis. Okay, then you're up first, Dennis. So tell us all about how you became involved and what capacity you've held with the program.
Well, I first became interested in the Sister City program by virtue of a discussion with Cecil Cupp Jr., whose family founded Arkansas Bank and Trust, which is now Regions Bank. Cecil always had an interest in establishing the Sister City relationship, and based on that conversation, Cecil, myself, and an attorney by the name of Stan Miller, who also was one of our first city directors when we had the change of government, started the process of trying to find a sister city. So it was kind of an informal learn as you go process. And then later, Brooks Rice from Mountain Valley Water became part of the group. And we just worked towards finding a city in Japan that we could become sister cities with. We really didn't have much luck, to be honest with you, and our efforts kind of stalled. And about that time, Hanamaki found us, and from there the relationship developed into what it is today.
And I just want to interject real quickly here. Now, Sister City program, people who are listening to this are mostly familiar with our Sister City program here in Hot Springs, where we have lots of exchange of students and travelers going back and forth. But some sister cities are actually sister cities because they have an economic connection between the two cities, whether it's a Toyota plant or some sort of distribution plant in Japan on one end or the other, that there's an economic reason for the Sister City program. So anyway, I just wanted to interject that. So go ahead, Dennis.
Well, the program started out as a project of the Chamber of Commerce. In our research, it seemed there was a division. Some Sister City relationships operated under the auspices of their local Chamber of Commerce, some under the city government. We started out as a chamber project, essentially. But I will say from day one, the cornerstone of the program was really about the cultural exchanges. It was primarily teachers back in the early days. Any economic development was basically a side benefit, but it wasn't the focus of the original push for the program.
Excellent. Now, were you part of the first delegation that went there?
Yes, I've been 4 times.
Oh, wow.
And I was part of the first delegation when we were on I'll call it the courting phase, and made that trip with about 13 other people. And
now, were you also, you helped set up the Sister City Foundation, didn't you? The nonprofit part? That's correct. Mm-hmm. So it kind of, and that's so crucial to our Sister City program, to not just have somebody working for the city, but actually have a whole board of directors who are a part of the community support of the program. And now, Donna, do you want to go next to how did you become involved?
Well, frankly, it was a blurb in the Sentinel Record when one of the first groups of kids from Hanamaki came here, and that was in the early 2000s. Dennis, I can't quite remember exactly when, but anyway, it said it was from the chamber, and if you want to have a student come to your house, please call the chamber and we'll basically set you up. So I did, and my kids, I have 2 sons, and they were in elementary school at the time, and I thought, well, that would be kind of fun for them to have a Japanese student in the house. And I've always been interested in international activities. And anyway, so I got a lovely, lovely young woman. She was 17, I believe, came and stayed with us, and my kids just loved her, and she was very patient with them and sat and played with the piano with my son and that type of thing. Anyway, after Millie Patrick was at the chamber then, and we had a little post meeting afterwards. Anything that we could do better, she asked. And I said, yes, there's something you could really do better. And that was, I was kind of appalled that you could just call the chamber and have a student come to your house. No vetting, and, no offense to the chamber, but it was not really researched very well about who was going to be picking up these kids. And it kind of freaked me out. So anyway, she said, okay, Donna, next year you do it. So for the next probably 10 years, I called up to 20 of my best friends and said, hey, do you want a student this winter? And the students would typically come in the winter time. And many of them were, they were usually of 2 groups. One was a junior high group and one was more of a high school group. The junior high kids were very young. They were, 13 years old maybe. And, a 13-year-old coming to another country and not being able to speak the language. And it was, that's a pretty brave child that can come. Those kids' trips were underwritten by a benefactor there in Hanamaki. So the slant was on junior high. And anyway, I tried to place two kids in homes if possible, because it gave them a little bit more support for the kid, because there was initial homesickness and, real fear. By the time they left, they were all crying to stay. But so that was my big start with the program. I really was involved with placing the kids in homes that I was comfortable with, and we built a network of people that that would work with the kids, take them places, understood how to do it. We give them more understanding of what was expected of them, how to receive these guests in their home. So I think we really built a very strong foundation, and kids that are really grown up now have come back to Hot Springs. And so that was my start. And then I think Dennis pulled me into the board at some point, and I've been board member, president, secretary, whatever, come up with different programs, worked a lot with the arts programs through the years, and I've just enjoyed it. I've only been to Hanamaki one time, but it was a great trip, and thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's my basic.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great.
Mary, I'd like to underscore one thing Donna said about the value of these exchanges. During my first two trips to Hanamaki, my wife and I stayed with the same host family. So this is late 80s, early 90s. And this family had two daughters. In the first year, one was 15, the other was 9. Fast forward to 2015, these girls were in their 20s, both married, one has a child, a son, and they came to visit us. So 25 years later, we reconnected on this relationship, and it was a very, very special time to see them again as grown-ups. And I think that's kind of an intangible benefit that you get out of the Sister City program, and you really can't attach a value to it.
Oh, absolutely. And we're so fortunate, and our kids are so fortunate now that they have technology, so that they're not waiting a week or two for that letter, that they can stay connected. And always they have their phones out before they leave, and they're making sure they're online or on Facebook so that they can stay connected. And I know so many of the kids do stay connected in that way. And just for what it's worth, we learned from you, Donna, we don't just pass out kids anymore. Somebody has to refer them. There has to be references. We make sure. And now we don't have as many our groups aren't quite as large of the students coming, but I always place students with a peer. So if we have a 14-year-old girl, I try to put them in a family with a 13, 14, 15-year-old girl, so that there's someone for them to connect with. But there is always that homesickness for sure. That I'll never forget the student that stayed at Bruce Westerman's house. Sharon called me and said, "Oh, he got sick." I said, "Well, he looked so young when he went home with them." I said, "Well, go get out the video games." And so she called me back about 30 minutes later, and it was all right as rain. The language of video games transcends, it transcends cultures. So part of our exchange.
I always found that the basketball was the best thing, because they would play with the boys, and we had good fun with that. Yeah.
Well, and so as I mentioned, some of the or many of our things here in Hot Springs happened before I came around. So I'm really excited to hear Dennis and Donna talk about some of the the cherry trees, or the exhibit, and how that really came to be, the exhibit in the convention center. So I am going to, and I may be throwing a curveball at Dennis and Donna here to do this, but I am going to share my screen. Whoops, let me see here. Is that right? I always have a hard, oh my goodness, what happened? See, I always mess up. I said this was very casual, so share. Can you see
Hey,
it?
hey, Mary. Yeah, it's
Yes.
good. You'll just need to expand the PowerPoint like you're doing and start us.
Okay, so I'm sorry to those of you watching out there that you're having to see me fumble through my technology. So, okay, this is, can you all see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this little, this started, was planted in 1998 out at National Park College. Now, were any of you,
I don't remember that one.
dinner when this kind of was planted or came to be?
To be honest with you, I really don't, because we had a couple cherry tree plantings over the life of the program, and that one I just don't remember. Looks like it's doing well though.
Yeah, it's still alive.
It doesn't look that great right now, but Darlene, who is a member of our board, Darlene Gentle, she's an instructor at National Park College. And so she went and took the picture today, and it hasn't quite bloomed yet. So I told Darlene's going to send me some pictures, and I'll put it on our Facebook page. So watch the Hot Springs Sister City Program Facebook page in the coming weeks, and you will see this beautiful cherry tree blooming. It was planted in 1998. And Howard Kilby, who has been so involved in the Sister City program and the Haiku Society here in Hot Springs, and does an annual haiku event and workshop here in Hot Springs, he was involved in that. And he wrote a very beautiful poem about the Sister City, or about the planting of the cherry tree. And so I've posted it in the comments. So if you want to hear more about how the cherry tree came to be, just read down in the comments and you will see that. Okay, and then on to the convention center. And now I hope this isn't dizzy making, because I did a video, but after the video it's a short video that shows the entire exhibit that we'll watch first in the convention center, so you can kind of get a feel for it. And then I have photos as well. So this is in the Hot Springs Convention Center down toward the arena. And it's an entire exhibit that, Dennis, do you want to, I think you might know a little bit about how this beautiful exhibit came to be.
Yes, this is a classic example of be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. And for anyone who's been to Hanamaki, you become well aware of the Shishi-Odori deer dancers. They're prominently featured in the Hanamaki Festival, which occurs every September. And I was talking to a few of my counterparts over there, and I said, if you would bring a mannequin of the Shishi-Odori to Hot Springs, I'll get a display case built. And darned if they didn't do it. So I told my wife, I said, well, I either raise the money for this display case or we leave town. And it took about a year, but Steve Harrison was generous enough to donate the naming rights to that alcove to the Sister City Foundation. And thank goodness National Park Medical Center bought the naming rights, and that kicked off our fundraising. The thing that's most remarkable to me about this exhibit is we retained an individual by the name of Bill Andrews, who constructs display cases for the Brooks Museum in Memphis. So we retain him, and the most prominent thing about the display case he built is you don't notice it. In other words, the display case is not the center of attention, it's what's inside of it. And that was because of the genius, if you will, of Bill Andrews, and him knowing how to build museum quality display cases. So I'm forever indebted to him for the job he did, and what a marvelous exhibit he put together.
Oh, it is beautiful. And he's come back on the 20th anniversary and the 25th anniversary. And the convention center has him go in and clean it. And they've restored where the dress has become faded, or the costume has become faded. And they've added items to the exhibit over the years. Now, all of the items that are in the exhibit actually came from Hanamaki, so they're made there. So I just encourage everybody, if you've walked past it in the past, stop and take a look at it and read about the different items. It's a great cultural opportunity, or it's like a museum of Hanamaki right there in that beautiful exhibit. Okay. And do you want to talk the Shishiodori? Would you tell a little bit about what that is, Dennis?
Japan, when a deer is killed, the way the Japanese show respect to the deer which they've killed for food is to have the ceremony, and it's performed by the Shishiodori deer dancers. That's really what they represent. And there are several troops, I guess mainly throughout northern Honshu, northern part of Japan, and they all participate in this Hanamaki Festival, and it's quite an event. So it's a very strong cultural presence in Hanamaki in the Iwate Prefecture.
Oh, absolutely. And there will be hundreds of deer dancers down the streets in Hanamaki when you go, that are all dressed in very similar costumes. And the festival is a 3-day event that takes place each fall in Hanamaki, where, I mean, pretty much everything stops, and from little kids to old people, everybody goes to it. And it's a series of dancers and parade and floats, and the Shishiodori is certainly kind of the heart of that.
Isn't it a 400-year-old tradition, I think, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Over 400.
Really old. Yeah.
Their 425th year just a few years ago. So anyway, so let's see. So that was in 2001. And then I'm going to hop out from screen sharing now. Let's see if I can do that. Is that possible? To stop? There we are. That wasn't as smooth as I thought it would be. Are we all back together now, Paul? So
yeah, you're up.
Okay, so that was in 2001, and then so we had some other things happen coming after that. Oh shoot, it's the Garvin Gardens. I'm going to just stay on the screen now. I apologize to everyone.
You'll need to go through the share option again if you want to share.
Okay. So would you mind, Dennis and Donna, talking about the gardens, the Garvin Gardens, and how we were involved in that with the Sister City program?
I think that the first activity was the dedication of the not the Half Moon Bridge. It's the other bridge. And there's a plaque there. One of the delegations came and they dedicated the is it called the Sunrise Bridge? I think that's what it is. And then it was not long, of course the gardens opened officially. David Slauson was the designer of the Japanese / Arkansas garden, and he spent many years in Japan learning about the design process of these Japanese gardens. And anyway, the delegation sent that little granite. I think you want to call it a lantern at the head. Yeah. At the top of before you wend your way down through the rest of that Japanese garden. And it's I don't know how they sent it. It weighs a ton. And what I've enjoyed seeing, because Mr. Slauson it looks so new initially, and he said, "Oh, it'll get better with time," and it has. Now it's kind of green, and it fits in with the environment. And it's what was that in 2003? It was dedicated on a freezing cold February day, and we froze to death out there, kind of like the last February day we had. That shrine has aged beautifully. It now fits in better with the environment, and now there's a lovely little bamboo fountain that fills with water, and it dumps the water, and it's a lovely little touchstone for the gardens, and we frequently take our visitors there to see the bridge and the lantern.
And now the lantern, they brought people there because it's sitting a certain direction, isn't it? I mean, aren't they very specific with how
I don't know exactly, but I'm sure that's part of the deal. Yeah, there's the Sunrise Bridge. That's it. And
yeah, that's beautiful. And the one on the left is the original Sunrise Bridge, but then they've restored it within the past few years. So now that's what the Sunrise Bridge looks like there.
Yeah.
So now, did the mayor name it, or because there's a plaque there by it, I think.
There is a plaque there. I remember going to that event at the time.
It's beautiful. And for those who visited Garvin Gardens, when you head down toward the Asian garden, it's there on the left, kind of across, a little bit across or before you get to the bonsai area. So both of those are just a beautiful addition to Garvin Gardens. And it's so nice that we have that representation to all the visitors who come to visit the gardens from everywhere, that they learn about our sister city relationship with Hanamaki while you're there. And it's certainly a beautiful time to go to the gardens. You can avoid the tulip rush by turning left and checking out the Sunrise Bridge and the lantern. Okay, so that's out at Garvin Gardens. And okay, now this was before I was a part of the Sister City program, but the Perfect Match documentary, that is available, and I will put it in the comments so that people can watch that documentary. But Dennis or Donna, do y'all know a little bit about how that documentary was made?
Yeah. When my kids were in school, there was a lot, the East Labs were just starting up. And Dick Warrington at Fountain Lake was doing a lot of really good stuff with his kids. And I don't know how I got involved with him in particular, but they were doing some filming. Anyway, I thought it would be a great idea. This is when we were first wanting to send kids on a regular basis to Japan. And I thought it would be a terrific, and I was really involved with the film festival at that point too. So I thought it would be a great idea for him to take a group. There were 4 kids who went with Dick and his wife Elaine, and they went and put together a really nice film and brought it back here. And we've used it on several occasions.
Yes, and I am dropping a link in the comments right now. I'm hoping it shows up there. Or if you go to the city website or YouTube, you can find A Perfect Match and watch the documentary online. So that's something you can certainly do from here in Hot Springs too. Like I said,
we got funding for that group through the Jane Howard Foundation, and with Melanie Messina, who was the one of the past directors of the film festival. And we had enough money to send them. And I'd like to say a lot of the stuff that we've done is done through foundations, and no public monies are involved with any of the foundation activity. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Jana Howard, Dorothy Morris has been an avid supporter of all Sister City Exchange, and has certainly been a big part of that. And then the Sister City Foundation does a lot of fundraising to support the exchange too, since it's a nonprofit organization. Okay, and then we're going to zip ahead a few years now to 2013. Do either one of you want to talk a little bit about who Kenji Miyazawa is?
Dennis, take it.
He was a famous poet that's from the Hanamaki region. Hanamaki actually has a Kenji Miyazawa museum that's located on a mountaintop overlooking the Kitakami River, and it's quite a place. So because he's such a legendary figure in Hanamaki, let's see, it's 2013. What year anniversary was that, Mary? I lose track.
2013.
20?
2013. It was the 20th anniversary.
20th anniversary. That was yet another gift from Hanamaki, and we had a little unveiling ceremony, and it's just a great location and just a great statue, and anyone that's been to Hanamaki or has been associated with the Sister City program for any length of time is familiar with Kenji Miyazawa, and that's kind of a classic pose of him.
Yes, and you see that silhouette all over Hanamaki. It's on this, everything from the covers on the ground to the park benches to the street lights. You see Kenji Miyazawa everywhere. And it also was done with a lot of local fundraising too, to do this beautiful sign there that explains to who Kenji Miyazawa is. And one of his most famous poems is there as well. And in this picture, this is one of our friends from Hanamaki exhibiting the same pose as Kenji Miyazawa. But it's located directly in front of the convention center. So after people go check out the Sister City exhibit inside the convention center, they should come on out front and see this beautiful exhibit that was that's a replica of one that's in Hanamaki at the Kenji Miyazawa Museum. Actually, I think there's 3 museums dedicated to the life and work of Kenji Miyazawa. So, okay. And this, the next anniversary, the 2018, in 2018, we had an artist exchange. And Donna, would you talk a little bit about the artist exchange in 2018?
Yeah, for years we have been talking about, since Hot Springs is City of the Arts, and trying to foster that relationship more. So we did set up an exchange. Erin Holiday from Emergent Arts went there, and Takuya Onozaki came here. And each of these artists had the opportunity to stay a month, I think about a month, and for their exchanges. They worked, Takuya worked on a painting here, and Erin, actually, she went to do an installation piece, which is in the international office in Hanamaki. And we just kind of wanted to continue to foster the arts exchange. And Erin, when she came back, did 4 cultural workshops at Emergent Arts, and has really been involved a great deal with the, actually the facility at Emergent Arts has really helped us a lot for a couple of the major exhibits that we've had too. So it's been a very productive exchange program, and we kind of wanted to continue that.
Yes, and Takuya did. This is hanging in the Parks and Recreation Department. Takuya actually did a lot of work with First Step, and with Abilities Unlimited. In Hanamaki, he works at a facility to assist the adults with learning disabilities in creating artwork. I've been to their museum before, and they have items for sale, beautiful artwork, using the abilities of these people that have different talents. And so they help them utilize those talents to create some beautiful pieces of artwork. Takuya said this represented all of the different people and all of the connections from across Hot Springs that create this beautiful place to live, and how we're all interconnected. Okay, and this was also 2018. This was a gift from Hanamaki, and it's stunning. It's in the convention center. When we were there, I think the following year, this is an artist who did an entire installation near the Kenji Miyazawa Museum. There's beautiful grounds around the museum. It's a park, really, with some ponds and trails up in the woods where there's a number of these sculptures scattered throughout the woods and next to little ponds. So you have the reflection, and at night, that iridescent light is just beautiful.
And if you go to Hanamaki, there's a huge neon display of Miyazawa's book, Night Train to the Stars, is illustrated in this enormous wall. And so this, you would understand it if you went there, this light and kind of fantasy world of Kenji. Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, on the our Facebook page, the primary image on our Facebook page is from that mural, and it's lit with, it's a black light.
Yeah.
So during the daytime, it just looks like a blank wall, but then at night, this train jumps off.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And so, and this is a couple of murals that are here in Hot Springs that depict scenes from Hanamaki. Did either one of you have a chance to visit Osawa Onsen when you were in Hanamaki?
Probably.
Yeah. It's over 400 years old. That's the image there on the left, the winter scene on the banks of a stream. Beautiful, beautiful ancient building. That part of it's very modern and you know, just a lot of history there. And so that's the winter scene. And then, of course, the spring scene with the cherry blossoms on the right. Those were both painted. They're here in Hot Springs, and it's on the side of the trough. It used to be Core Brewing there near the Regions building, which, Dennis, if you were still in your office, you would be able to look out your window and see those from.
I still have my office.
Oh, there you go.
I see them. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. I didn't realize you still had the office there. So you can look down and see those, and they are a draw. Almost every time I walk by there or drive by there, there's someone getting their picture taken in front of it. Well, the person that's standing in this picture is Giuseppe Piersavati, or Pepe Gacca. He's painted a number of murals around town. But he's an Italian artist, but he did live in Japan for a number of years, and wanted to support the idea of the ideals of the Sister City program about learning about other cultures and how important that is for our world and to create a more peaceful world for us all to live in by learning about other cultures. And so he's not Japanese, he's Italian, but he certainly has a love for both Hot Springs and Japan. And hopefully maybe he can go paint a mural in Hanamaki sometime. Okay, and so now we'll kind of transition over to how people can experience Hanamaki here in Hot Springs, or talk about some of the different exchanges that we've done in the past of how people here in Hot Springs have been involved with the Sister City Exchange program. This was a couple of weeks ago. Our annual Cherry Blossom Festival was a little bit different this year than it has been in the past, but Donna, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was better.
Oh, it got so many people, it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, the person on the right there is Kai Reed. She's an instructor at Arkansas Tech University, and she's teaching this young girl how to play the taiko drum, which is, of course, from Japan. But she was performing. Erin Holiday, who we mentioned, we partnered with Emergent Arts, and she designed, and we worked together to construct pretty much a life-size torii gate. So, and had a number of different Japanese cultural exhibits and displays. Students from Arkansas Tech University and UCA came down and taught calligraphy and origami. of course, scores of local volunteers as well, and our student delegates. It was the sponsorship dollars from it, and then a silent auction helped to raise money for the Student Scholarship Fund, which students from all across Garland County have the ability to be a part of the annual student exchange and travel to our sister city for a week. So the Student Scholarship Fund helps make that an opportunity for all students. So it assists in paying the expenses of students whose family might not have the ability to write a check and pay for their student to be a part of it. So it just kind of helps support that program. And a number of our students who were there that day working. And so this is just a couple of pictures of some of our different exchanges that we've had over the years.
That's at Fountain Lake. We had a group of Etagami group come, and Etagami is a wonderful group of women who make these fanciful cards, and it's to share greetings and basically to just keep the happiness going between people. But the drawings on these cards and the paintings on these cards are fanciful, cartoon-like, but really fun. And I took a bunch out to Fountain Lake School. This was a number of years ago. And when we've had art contests, the youth art contest every year. And we had a couple of kids with winning art from that. And I brought those cards out to them too, to show in their art class. It was fun.
And I let Etagami, we do a workshop for that each time or usually when a group goes there, and they're painted with these really long brushes. And so you're supposed to hold your arm straight out and let the brush hang down from your hand to paint. And they said it's because the love then flows from your heart, or the feelings, the love down your arm, through the brush and onto the page. So you're supposed to think about who you're sending the card to while you're doing it, so that you can convey those feelings to them. I thought that was the neatest thing the first time I went there, and they told me that's just, there's so much thought that goes into it and sentiment. That's cool. Those are really beautiful. And one exchange that took place before I was a part of the program was the soba noodle exchange. Does anybody want to talk? Which one of you would like to talk about noodles?
Dennis.
Well, I'd like to talk about exchanges in general, and just say one thing to the viewers that might not have been involved in the Sister City program or really know that much about it, but particularly, I'd say for the first 15 years of our relationship with Hanamaki, I can't tell you how seriously Hanamaki has taken the relationship, how proactive they were in the early years, and the investment they made in our community. And I can say without exaggeration that during those first 15 years, for every dollar the Hot Springs community invested in the Sister City program, Hanamaki invested 10. And I've told people that they really made us, Hot Springs, become a good sister city. And I have to give the city board of directors a lot of credit for stepping up to the plate, creating the Sister City coordinator position, and then a lot of credit to Steve Harrison for transferring that position over to the Advertising and Promotion Commission where it belonged. And then Mary, once you became executive director, I felt like my job was done and I didn't have to worry about it anymore. So I'm really glad you're serving in that role.
Well, I am too. I love this position. And I mean, you get to do good work and let people, I've always felt that we're fortunate to have a sister city that's so very different than ours, that we speak a different language and different culture, completely different religions, and that you really get to see that in spite of all your differences, once you meet people, you find out that you have a lot in common, even if on the surface it doesn't appear as if you do. So, and people who grow up in rural areas, I grew up in a little town where all of my family lived around there. So I think it's especially important for kids to have exposure to people not like themselves, for us grown-ups too, but for kids as well, for sure. And I mentioned the soba noodle exchange. That was for me, but I wish it wasn't. I want to do another one of those. Donna, talk about soba noodle eating.
Well, you just they pour out have cups, lots and lots of cups of noodles, and 1, 2, 3, go, and you slurp them down, and how many can you get through? And it's pretty amazing how many noodles one person can eat. It's not quite the Nathan hot dog contest, but almost.
Yeah,
pretty gross and pretty nasty.
Yeah. Oh, they did it at the junior high, didn't they, or at the high school?
I think it was junior high. I'm not sure. I can't remember too much about it, but yeah.
It was right before I came on board, but it just seemed like a lot of fun because, we have art and all of these very, the documentaries and all of these very serious exchanges, but then to have something like a noodle eating contest.
Yeah. And it's specific soba noodles, which are buckwheat noodles, and that's the traditional noodle that they have there. And you can buy them at Kroger's, I think, even or look hard, and but you can do your own noodle contest at home, and you're allowed to slurp, which I think most kids like. So
I still have noodles left over from Cherry Blossom last year, so maybe that are soba noodles, so we could have our own noodle eating contest when we get past COVID, maybe.
Yeah.
And another thing that we did here in Hot Springs, after it's called, I kind of tabbed at the compassionate exchange. There's all of these great exchanges where people go back and forth, but when family is your family and sister cities are you go through ups and downs together. And here in the U.S., we had the evacuees from Hurricane Katrina who came to Hot Springs in 2005, wasn't it, or 2007? And then, of course, the tsunami and earthquake that happened in 2011. Now, were either one of you involved in those compassionate exchanges or raising money?
Well, definitely after the tsunami, when we at the St. Patrick's parade, it was very lovely because it was immediately after the tsunami and there was that terrible aftermath. And St. Patrick's, we were doing a fun Mikoshi shrine with the kids that year, and we were wanting to raise some money to send, because that area was an immediate relief area for the people in the tsunami. And we had a bucket that we carried along with the shrine, and people gave us so much of their loose change. It was very heartening because people would run out to us and gave it. I don't know how much money we raised that day, but it was several $100s just along the parade route for the to send to Hanamaki. And
well, then didn't we also have a fundraiser at Horner Hall?
Yes.
It was. I remember it was a real special night. I just can't remember that much about it, but it was
we
very
did.
special.
We had a number of performers, and NHK, the Japanese television, they sent a crew from New York to
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hot Springs raised over $25,000.
That's right.
To send to help those. And we just celebrated the 10th anniversary, we just observed the 10th anniversary of the tsunami and earthquake that happened about an hour and a half, or the earthquake certainly impacted Hanamaki, but the tsunami was just devastating to the coastal area located about an hour and 15 minutes from Hanamaki. So we at the Cherry Blossom Festival we collected funds to go toward a cherry blossom or a cherry tree planting project that's planting cherry trees all along the coastal area to observe that what the high water line was for the tsunami. Just a few, just to mention a few other things. We did have the two Mikoshis, 2 different years. We participated in the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which was a whole lot of fun. We've had some documentary films, which Donna, I think you've been pretty involved in most of those, haven't you, as far as some of the different films over the years?
Yeah, we had a wonderful one. It was called Paper Lanterns, and that was the year of anniversary year of the Hiroshima bombing, and we had a wonderful audience for that. And another really interesting one we had at the library. It's called Samurai Over Oregon, and I don't know if you can find. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube or something, but both of those are really interesting documentaries about Japan and the United States.
I'll see if I can find a link for Samurai and the Oregon Sky if it's available online, and I'll put it in the comments section of the video.
Yeah.
And we also had Made in Japan, Tomi Fujiyama.
Right. That was fun.
That was so much fun. Our Japanese country music star. And those of us who've traveled to Hanamaki since then, who've gone through Tokyo, she makes a point of meeting us and welcoming us to Japan and taking the group to Hee Haw, which is a tiny little restaurant and bar owned by a friend of hers. And the guitars come out and there's Hee Haw decorations all over it. It's right in the middle of Tokyo. So that connection is very firm. She loved Hot Springs and she wants to come back. So, but we showed the film at the Documentary Film Festival about her life called Made in Japan and how she performed on the Grand Ole Opry. We also had Shonen Knife come one year, the all-girl rock band that was in Kill Bill. They performed one year as a fundraiser for the student delegation, kind of a fun twist on more modern music and Japanese culture. And then the anime exhibit that we had at Emergent Arts certainly reached out to a different interest with anime and manga. And both the anime exhibit and the anime manga exhibit and the Tohoku photography exhibit were both exhibits from the Japan Foundation. And so we were very grateful that Emergent Arts worked with us and gave us a spot to hang those beautiful exhibits that tour major cities all over the world, and we were able to host them here in Hot Springs.
Yeah, these were huge exhibits, that are museum quality, and it was not just a few pieces of paper at all. It was an enormous exhibit, and it was a great boon for the community that Emergent Arts would use their space for these exhibits. Yeah.
Oh, the anime and manga exhibit, we timed it so it was the same time as SpaCon. So we had a lot of visitors from SpaCon, the anime clubs from the different schools planned field trips there. So, and it's just different ways, Japanese culture isn't just about ancient Japanese culture. There's certainly the modern Japanese culture that has a large interest and following from young kids all over the place. I mean, I know my son enjoys the, manga and anime, or lots of kids do. So,
but the cool thing was it tied it to the very old manga that were done. So it was really, it was really a pretty deep discussion about manga and its evolution to the modern anime. So this was not just some frivolous type of,
Oh yeah,
absolutely. At all. Yeah,
absolutely. It tied that current hip culture or modern culture back to something with very much so. And each year, we didn't do it this year because of COVID, but the Sister City International is an international organization that kind of works with Sister City programs all across the United States and their partners around the world. They have an annual youth art showcase. And Donna, you have been very involved in that. So I'm going to turn that over to you to talk about.
That is sponsored by the Sister Cities International. And So we try to get kids to participate. The Sister Cities International posts a theme, and we solicit participation. Through the years, we've taken that. We get a number of entries from Japan, from Hanamaki, and all the schools locally are entitled to participate as well. And we have exhibited all those entries. Lately, we've been using the library art wall at the library to do the exhibit there. And in the past, it was hung at the Fine Arts Center that when it was downtown. We also took all the tour of that group of artwork to a number of schools in the area when we first started doing it. That we select a winner from Hot Springs and one from Hanamaki, and then they're sent to the national contest. And in the past, we've had two kids from Hanamaki that have been finalists in the contest, and those artworks travel all over the United States in its own exhibit, and so that's been pretty nice. It's just a great way to interpret a theme, both from, and it's interesting because the type of way that the Japanese kids may interpret a theme, or that their icons that they use, and then those that are here in this town, and what's important. But it's an interesting contrast in how to look at some type of theme centered around goodwill and understanding, that type of thing. So that's been fun to do.
Yes, and hopefully we'll be right back on track for that.
Hopefully, next year. Yeah.
And our student exchanges, of course, we welcome student groups each year. Now they come in the fall instead of in the winter, thankfully. So we have much better weather to entertain them with. Yeah. And we have a student delegation that's scheduled to go this summer. Teachers, local teachers, teachers that go each year, and then bring those experiences from visiting Japanese classrooms for an entire week, bring that back to the students in their classroom and the other teachers at their schools. And then we also have citizen delegations, which are adults from the area or connected to Hot Springs, who travel to Hanamaki each year, usually for the Hanamaki Festival, which is the second weekend in September, for over 400 years. So it's really quite an honor to be a part of that. And I was jotting down things that I can't not mention this, obviously, our baseball exchange. Now, Dennis talked about wanting to do a baseball exchange. The first time that ever came up, Dennis mentioned it. And so it was pretty cool that we were able to have a baseball exchange in 2019. Hanamaki Higashi baseball team, one of the top teams in Japan, came to visit their sister school of Lakeside. And on December 7th, a day that most of us have a much different association with, those kids played baseball together on the field at Lakeside. And of course, there's a dream of having, a group from Lakeside go play baseball in Hanamaki, and maybe having Hanamaki come back for a baseball game at our new Majestic Field. So that'd be pretty cool to have the baseball players there play where Babe Ruth once played. And let's see, another thing that the Hot Springs, our sister city program, has been named best overall program of all sister cities of our size in the United States twice. The first time in 2012, and then last year we received that same recognition, which says a lot considering how many cities there are out there our size. It's between 25 and 50,000, and that our program is the best of all of that. And the reason it is the best is because we have such a great group of supporters here in Hot Springs. And the city leaders
Hey, Mary, you're having trouble.
Yeah.
I'm going to try removing you and adding you back. Hey, Mary.
She still looks a little frozen.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Might repeat that last 30 seconds or so.
Okay. Did I leave anything out, or are there any questions?
Yes. Do you still have your slideshow up?
Yes.
Okay. Can you share that again? There were a couple of slides that.
Okay, let me see if I can do that again. You're asking a lot for me to go back through that technology again.
That was a very interesting and wholesome discussion. And if the noodle contest ever comes back and you do a version for adults, I'm definitely in. I'd much rather do that than a hot dog contest.
Oh, okay. So can you see it now?
No, not yet.
Oh, Lord. Okay, let's see here. Oh, gosh. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know why I have such a hard time.
I can.
No, that's okay. I can do it now. I'm sharing this right here. There we go.
All right. If you'll go to the one of the tree, Christina mentioned that one, said, I never knew about that tree at NPC.
Oh, whoops. It was the first one.
Yeah.
It's in front of the Gerald Fisher building.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the right side of the Gerald Fisher building. And I posted in the comments the story that Howard Kilby conveyed to me about the story behind that tree.
And let's see, if you'll go to let's see, Christina also said, love the exhibit in the convention center. Did you have anything else to add about that?
Well, it's updated constantly, and each year, every 5 years, we go in and clean it, and usually representatives from Hanamaki come back, and there's always some new additions to it. So, but beautiful arts and artisan items there in it.
Mm-hmm. It's an eye catcher.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Kohei says, that's me standing next to Kenji's statue.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there's Kohei. Well, and hey, if you want to know something else, there's Kohei standing next to Bruce Orr, standing next to the crystal. So Kohei was on a couple of weeks or last month. Kohei was with us in person, so it's nice that Kohei's watching online.
Howard Kilby, who wrote the poem, says that Hanamaki brought 2 large frame sumo artistic renderings of a famous sage in Japan called Bodhidharma. Who has these?
I don't know, but I can find out. I will do some I wonder what year anyway, I'll get with Howard Lee Kilby about this, and we'll find out what year it was, and I can track down where they went.
It could have wound up at the chamber, because it was chamber was heavily involved in the early days of the program.
Huh. Yeah, that'll be nice to. And we also have a nice 10-piece exhibit of prints that are based on the writings of Kenji Miyazawa that I've used in an exhibit before in my office for the 25th anniversary, and then it was on exhibit the first part of the year at ASMSA.
Kay says, what gifts have we presented to Hanamaki? They certainly have gifted us some real treasures.
Oh, absolutely. Each year when a delegation goes, we take a gift. I've taken artwork from local artists.
I'd like to tell you about one gift that we took.
Yes.
And that was for one of the first anniversaries. We decided that what would be appropriate from here, and that is crystal. and sending it to Hanamaki. But I went out to Coleman and talked to them directly and discussed what would be an appropriate crystal, and selected 2 points. There, it was a pretty large, probably about 12 inches high, but 2 crystals that were bridging each other, and we had a beautiful oak base made for it, and that was I thought it was a really nice present that we brought to Japan from here.
Yeah, that was perfect. Well, I've taken gifts from artists as well, Riley Art Glass and Jean Sparling, and one year one of our local artists who had traveled to Japan did a piece of stained glass that had Hot Springs and Hanamaki both on it, and the flowers from both of our cities. But all of the gifts that we've taken are on exhibit in their international exchange offices. And the piece of artwork that Erin Holiday did as part of the artist exchange, it is also in the international offices there in Hanamaki.
Now, did you say the gift exchange is annual?
Well, anytime we as a delegation go, we take a gift of some sort. For the 5-year anniversaries, it's usually a little bit more substantial.
Got a hello from Hanamaki City Hall from Jesse, who
Hey.
Joined us in our previous episodes of this program. He said, we're starting our new fiscal year here this morning, but happy to see you all again.
Yes, in Japan, their New Year begins April 1st each year, and there's a method or tradition that they do in the city offices where they have job rotation. So many people are starting the new year in a new office. So you can be in one office for 2 or 3 or 5 years, and then you're rotated to another division. And I want to say congratulations to Yoshie. She received a bit of a promotion, and she will be staying and leading in the Hanamaki office. So yay for that for Yoshie. She's a good friend to many people here in Hot Springs, Yoshie Kato.
Got a shout out from Maxine Dickerson, who's a very nice lady, enjoyed watching. And
she was so helpful at the Cherry Blossom Festival. She likes to fold origami and is very good at it. So we were grateful that she shared her talent with us at the Cherry Blossom Festival. She
comes into the library around Valentine's Day every year and then passes out little origami Valentines for the staff. So.
Oh, shit, that's such a sweet lady. Yep, and loves to share that origami.
Yoshi just said thank you for the congratulations. And then Chris emailed me a photo to share.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Oh,
that's lovely. With their etegami.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Christina Coleman and her husband
Cliff in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, they were chaperones for several years for the student delegations. And there's my daughter and Isaac Schaefer and Kai Massino, Dylan Setley. That's Darlene Gentle's daughter. Emily is in there. What a neat group. That's awesome.
What year was this?
That was 2015. The year Bell went. I think Cliff may have gone one more year after that, I think. But anyway, Cliff and Christina. Hi, Christina. So she was such a wonderful host mom, or not host mom, but travel mom for all those kids, dragging them to the other side of the world. A very, very patient soul.
All right. Well, those are all the comments and questions we had. I got a little program to mention, and then I'll let you mention one as well, Mary. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., we're having a beginners intro to telescopes and astronomy. That's with Steve Skubish with the Hot Springs Village Stargazers Club. So he's going to go over all the basics. If you're interested, have some telescopes for demonstration and point out some of the easy to spot night sky objects. And then Mary, this isn't the only series you're doing with us at the library. Next week on Wednesday, you've got the second episode of your gallery walk talk, and the previous one earlier this month had Jim Larkin at Fox Pass Pottery. That was a really fun one. So why don't you tell us about the next one?
Our next one is going to be local artist Barbara Kade. And she's so very talented and does beautiful installations using a lot of times wool, which a lot of people don't think of that as something to be used in art. So she will view her studio tour, her virtual studio tour from last year, and she will share some images of her work. She'll tell us about her process and her inspiration. And we can also talk a little bit about the studio tours that will be coming up for local artists during Arts in the Park, which is in May. So we'll start talking a little bit about that. Normally, the first Wednesday of the month, I will talk about Gallery Walk, but just so happens this month, Gallery Walk is before the first Wednesday of the month, but Gallery Walk is the first Friday of every single month. So that's the day after tomorrow. So I'm just going to plug it on this one. If those of you who are watching, please head out to Gallery Walk on Friday night. Wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, be safe, get your shots, but go out and support our local artists, because they've certainly been a big part of our Sister City program as well, and a part of supporting our exchanges with our Sister City program. So, and also, just on that note, if anybody's out there and would like to be involved in the Sister City program, there's really a spot for everybody, whether you like hosting or volunteering, being involved in any way, or if you have ideas for exchanges. I would welcome the input. Just drop me a message on Facebook on the Hot Springs Sister City program, or you can email hotspringssistercity@yahoo.com. And would be happy to hear back ideas and suggestions. And thank you so much, Dennis and Donna, for not only being on here tonight. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but the countless hours and years that you have put into making the Sister City program the success that it is.
All right. Any final words anyone would like to share? All right. Well, everyone, good night, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks so much, Paul.
Thank you.